I talk a lot about estrogenics on this channel, and if you're a current subscriber of mine, you're probably wondering, how did I personally remove estrogenics from my life and how you can do the same to increase your testosterone. So I put up an effective guide on removing estrogenics. And if you don't know, estrogenics are artificial estrogen. So instead of your testosterone binding with the androgen receptors, it will be estrogenics particles. So instead of expressing masculine genes, you will be expressing feminine genes. So you're probably a guy wanting to have more masculine gene expression, so more muscle growth, a stronger bone structure, and the mental clarity, the drive of a masculine being. Well, this is the goal of this guide, is to down the line increase your androgens, such as your testosterone. Now, this guide is an effective guide, meaning that it applies the 80-20 rule. Now, that means that you're gonna get 80% of the results with only 20% of the efforts. So it's a minimal effort, maximum results. So I'm gonna talk about the most important things that you absolutely need to remove from your life. I'm gonna begin with the most important, and down the line in the video, as we progress into the video, it's gonna get less and less important. And all of what I'm gonna mention to you are things I am currently doing, are things that I have already subtracted from my life. And I'm gonna give you solutions to replace those things. Let's begin with the first one. Ingesting microplastic. The first thing you want to make sure you're not doing is ingesting microplastic, because ingesting microplastic is incredibly easy and it happens a lot. And in microplastics, there's a bunch of estrogenics, such as phthalates, BPA, BPS. So what are the sources of you ingesting plastic? There's two main ones. The first one is, are you drinking from a plastic water bottle? Now, I used to do that. I had a plastic water bottle and I used to drink out of there all the time. At least 2 liters of water a day. Do you use plastic food containers? Now, I've got one over here. It's a glass container. Yes, it has a plastic top, but the food does not touch the plastic top. It only touches the glass, which brings me on to the solutions. Use glass or metal instead of plastic. I used to have plastic food containers and I removed all of those for glass containers. From time to time I use a plastic container for my food, but I always make sure that when I microwave something, I use glass, because when you heat up something, it makes it so much worse. The plastic, the microplastic leaks so much more into your food. And instead of plastic water bottle, I have a glass water bottle. A bunch of people have stainless steel water bottles, which is also fine. So that's your first action step. That's the first things you need to remove from your current lifestyle. Let's talk about the second things. Stop touching plastic. Now, it kind of goes with the first one. And when I'm talking about plastics, I'm talking about polyester and also nylon, but the most common one you will be seeing is polyester. So, how can you stop touching plastic? Well, there are 2 main sources, again, of you touching plastic. The first one is your clothing. You're always or almost always wearing something, right? During the day you go out, you're clothed. Well, most of the clothing nowadays is made out of polyester. And that's basically you touching plastic for the whole day. And if your underwears are plastic, that means that you're touching plastic every single day, all day long. And you absolutely don't want that. Same thing for your bed sheets. You want to make sure you don't have polyester bed sheets. I make sure I don't have polyester bed sheets. Now, the solutions to not touching plastic is to use cotton or wool. This shirt I got on, 100% cotton. My pants, 100% cotton. My boxers, they're all 100% cotton. And I use Joe boxers, very cheap. Because one funny thing about cotton wearing is that cotton wearing usually costs less than polyester wearing. So you might already have a bunch of cotton clothing, but make sure you're always using those. And for your bed sheets, you can use cotton bed sheets. I have that, but You can also use bamboo. So that's it for the solutions to stop touching plastic. I believe it's quite simple. Just go for anything that's cotton. You don't need to change your whole wardrobe overnight, but next time you go buy something, make sure you buy something that's made out of cotton. All right, let's talk about the third way to remove estrogenics from your life. You need to stop ingesting estrogenics. Now, this one is a little bit more complicated, and I believe we're getting kind of in the details of estrogenics, but three main sources. The first one is your water, your tap water. In your tap water, and I know I might sound absolutely crazy, but go look it up. It's written. In your tap water, one of the things that scares me the most is EE2, which basically is the birth control pill. It is not filtered out of the water. Now, I personally drink only reverse osmosis water that has been remineralized. So I make sure that there's no EE2 in my water. Now there's other things in your water that you probably don't want, like microplastic, heavy metals. So I'd really recommend you use a water filter. Now there's plenty of different water filter out there. Before I used a charcoal water filter, I think the brand was named Brita. And now I use a reverse osmosis water filter, which is much more expensive. If you're not as invested as I am in increasing your testosterone, you're probably not gonna do this. But simply getting a charcoal filter, which can be like quite cheap, like $20 maybe, would be a great first step in the right direction. The second way you're ingesting estrogenics is with processed food. Now, processed food is not only bad because it has estrogenics inside of it, it's also dog shit food. It's like dog food. You don't want to be ingesting processed food. Instead, you want nutrient dense food that's actually going to allow you to build muscle mass and to create your steroid hormones such as testosterone. But in processed food, there are colorings such as red 40, which is extremely estrogenic. And there are additives. Now, in processed food, you probably already know that there's a bunch of additives. I mean, go and take a McDonald's French fries and just put it somewhere and let it rest and see what would happen to it. Nothing. It will stay there. It will stay eatable. It will not even change color after 1 year of letting it on your table. And that's simply impossible. Food doesn't act like that. A good food, let's say you go buy an apple, after like 2-3 weeks, absolutely rotten. And that's when you know if you're eating real food or not. And the third way you're ingesting estrogenics is with phytoestrogens. Now, those are natural estrogenics in a way. It's not because of humans that phytoestrogen exists compared to processed food. It's human made, and the EE2 in the water is also human made. But phytoestrogens can be things such as flax seed. You want to avoid those, extremely phytoestrogenic. Cannabis, that one's very obvious, right? Lavender, now lavender is something that you might be ingesting, but it might also be something that you're touching. I know people that put the lavender scent on almost everything. And when you're spraying that on yourself or on... And the last one is soy. Now soy is everywhere and you want to avoid it. That means, yeah, no soy sauce. I absolutely love soy sauce and I stopped taking soy sauce. Now, here and there, maybe once every 3 months, 4 months, I like to go to a Chinese buffet and just absolutely indulge in soy sauce. But except that, I avoid soy. No soy product in my diet. So what can you do instead of using all those things? Well, I already talked about the water. Well, instead of processed food, you gotta eat caveman food. That's what I call caveman food. So meat, fruits, vegetables, you got nuts, and that's basically it. Yeah, you're gonna eat eggs. Eggs is extremely good if you want to increase your testosterone. You probably already know this. And simply avoid phytoestrogens. You can still eat some vegetables, extremely good for you. I usually go with broccolis, carrots, and those are basically my two main ones. And for fruits, I usually take bananas, kiwis, apples. Those are my three main fruits. So that's it for the third way. Now, the fourth way to remove estrogenic from your life is to stop applying estrogenics. Now, we're really getting into the details of this. So, yeah, this is the least important one because it's precise things that you need to change. But all those things, I already subtracted them from my life. What are those? Well, they are your pharma products. That's how I wanted to call it. So your skincare products, your moisturizer, it has parabens. Parabens are estrogenics. Sometimes they got phthalates, aluminum, and there are things that you don't want to put on your skin. Now, same thing for shower products. Your shampoo, I haven't shampooed in like a full year now, and my hair is completely fine. I know this might sound crazy, but you can actually wash yourself with only water and you're gonna be clean. And your hair, it's the same thing. You can wash your hair with only water. Now, if you smell, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the options, but if you smell, you simply have to use a natural soap. I use a natural soap. I try to use it as least as possible because there are still ingredients in there that I'm not too sure about. If you go with a natural soap, either a soap made out of oils or a soap made out of tallow, beef tallow, you will be good, bro. And you can simply just stop using shampoo or conditioner. It's completely useless. It does not even work. Ever since I stopped using shampoo, my hair holds better and it looks better. It also smells better. So it's simply a huge scam. Now, there's also your tooth care products. Of course, keep on brushing your teeth. That's not what I'm gonna say to you, but try to use a natural toothpaste. There are some toothpastes that are naturals. I mean, you're gonna see it on the label. It's usually written natural organic toothpaste, and the goal is to aim for minimal amount of ingredients. And when you go read the ingredients, try to see if you actually know what it is. If you do, that's a great sign. Now, sunscreen. Now, sunscreen, it's kind of hard to talk about sunscreen because if you're extremely white and you burn, well, the act of you burning means that you're increasing your chances of having a skin cancer. But if you never burn, you are fine. You can stop using sunscreen. Personally, I never have sunburns. So I simply don't use sunscreen because if I don't have sunburns, that means that I have much less chances of having skin cancer. So there's no point of putting sunscreen, which has estrogenics and also things that can give you cancer. Kind of a trade-off here. Well, if you're extremely white, yeah, sometimes, at least at the beginning of summer, you might still need to use sunscreen. But if you can, try to use other means, such as wearing more clothing, such as being less under the sun. Now, yeah, of course, you gotta get your vitamin D, but if you're extremely white, it's extremely fast for you to get your vitamin D. That's what I'd recommend. Now, there's also your grooming products that you gotta be careful of. I used to have a shaving cream that was extremely estrogenic. So before shaving, I would apply this cream everywhere. Now instead, I simply use olive oil. Very simple swap. And my skin doesn't feel irritated at all after using olive oil. Now, there's other grooming products if you're talking about styling products for your hair. Instead of using some pomade, some clay, sometimes there's some good natural options, but usually there's still fragrance in there, and you want to avoid anything that is fragrance related because in fragrances, in that little ingredient, there can be up to 100 chemicals that are estrogenic. So avoid fragrances. So instead of using some pomade, some clay, I started only using sea salt spray. And I make my own sea salt spray. I just take a little water spray. I've got it downstairs. And I put as much salt as I can inside of it, shake it up, and then I just spray it a bunch in my hair. Kind of does this look that I really enjoy. And the last one is your soap products. Already talked about it, using natural soap. So all of the answers to reducing estrogenics, removing estrogenics, is to basically go for natural options. I think it's extremely important that people know more about these things, about estrogenics, because I believe that is one of the main factors of why men nowadays are depressed, why there's such an important fertility crisis. And if you're like me, you want to make sure that you're going to get children, that you're going to be able to have children. Be careful of those things. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Mwah.